So, I was at a funeral recently.
We were, yeah.
Yes. And I ran into Pastor Darin, and we were taking a little walk down memory lane. It started with talking about Charlie Kirk. And some disagreements that we had with him, and also some appreciations we had with him for somebody to be able to put their life on the line and speak whatever their truth was, and it's not alone, but also some of the things that he was lacking, that we felt he was lacking, and also some of the things that we went through, I was going through around when I met him, and continue to go through. And before we get into that, I wanted to ask you why you haven't been on Facebook. Are you decided to do a Facebook fast, or?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was just got overwhelmed, with a couple thousand people connected to on Facebook. Like, what do these connections mean? Saying happy birthday to about 5 different people a day that I remember, and for most of them, that was the extent of our relationship. And just becoming aware of, just questioning why I was doing that. My intention was to extend caring and to sustain connections, but I wondered if it was accomplishing my intention. And also that other aspect, the side effect, or it's the main effect really, is the temptation of the feed and what the algorithm is sending my way. Obviously, most of it is designed to get me worked up, right? Hook me in to whatever the latest disaster, chaos, conflict that it wants to market to my eyeballs, because that's what gets clicked, versus the in-person relationships that are more of a two-way true relationship. I recently got back on just to check, because I heard several people were looking for me. Where did I go? They wondered if I was okay because I wasn't on social media anymore. And so just checked in with a few friends, one of them a guy I grew up with, and that had been our main mode of contact. He was recently forced into retirement and is decided to take a road trip and come out here and visit. And to me, that's that prime value.
And I want to say something real quick.
Yeah,
so
sure.
Maybe the saying "Happy Birthday" all those years, and maybe for me, there's some people that I have strong connections with that I would have probably totally forgot about them from long ago.
Yeah.
And it's so it's not all bad, and I don't think you're saying it's all bad,
right.
But it's picking and choosing the energy of our time. So, for instance, Steve Jobs used to wear the same thing every day.
Yeah.
And the reason why he did that, because he didn't want to waste energy making decisions.
Yeah.
That those decisions could be $1 billion decisions. And what is $1 million or $1 billion decisions that you make in your life? You might not be money generated, but the richness of community, of people, of doing things that uplift mankind. What is your version of that?
Yeah.
So go back into your friends coming out here.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. There's a continuity of connection. He's like a brother to me, and yet we go a lot of years without seeing each other. But those relationships where it's easy to pick up where you left off, and that's what it is with us. So this was recently his dad passed away, who was my Boy Scout master, and I had a lot of respect for him. He sort of modeled being a dad in a way that my dad found it hard to do because he was caught up in alcoholism when I was growing up. I'm grateful that he got sober and we started again, and we had a very close, demonstrative relationship up until he died. So yeah, it was very important. People have shaped me, and I think about often. So that's the $1 million stuff for me, is the people who've shaped our character in reciprocal ways, right? We influence each other. It's one of the reasons I enjoy our conversations. I feel like we always pick up where we left off. There's a mutuality to this. There's a humor and openness in our conversations that anytime I see you or come across you, I feel a burst of joy and gratitude because I remember many of our interactions and a resonance there, a shared kind of energy. A lot of it maybe is hard to put into words, but I feel like when I interact with you, I'm interacting with the real you, right?
Yeah.
Not just somebody who's on their way to something else, right? And exchanging pleasantries and moving on fast. But you embody a presence of receptivity that I try to lean into because I really believe that is a healing force in this world. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm in a transition, and I think it's going to be there's lots of layers to it. I'm in a transition that I'm around when I first met you. There was a lot of stuff going on campus that was really, and it's interesting that you brought your dog. Let me see if we can get the dog real quick. You said the dog Tori, because the dog's a rescue dog, right?
Yeah.
And I can remember identifying with the rescue dog when I had one of the rawest conversations I've ever had in my life. I'm somebody that consistently has raw conversations, but that was like the rawest conversation in my life when I was having I was in a crisis, and during the conversation, I don't remember a lot of the details of it, but I remember I hit every emotion known to man during that conversation. I was laughing, I was crying, I was like everything. And you didn't talk much during that, but I was, and I'm sure you're surprised because even though I'm authentic and present and real on a consistent basis, I do bottle up some things. Yeah, I'm not an unfiltered type of person.
Sure.
But Tori was the first time Tori came up to me, and then I was like, oh, I'm like a rescue dog. What is it? Why a rescue dog? And I'm framing this I'm asking this question, but kind of framing it for the rest of the conversation or a part of the conversation. It's like, why would you get a rescue dog?
Yeah. So I had a couple of labs before Tori, and they were all rescues. Really, they presented themselves as opportunities to me. I didn't go looking for a dog. I heard about these dogs, and at a time when hearing about them felt like an invitation, not like something to help or project, or you know what I mean? But yeah, an invitation into another dimension in my life.
So a lot of times people say that I didn't rescue the dog rescued me, or I didn't rescue the horse rescued me. Do you think it's something like there? Because I think you're holding back from seeing that I got the dog and the dog to help the dog. But did the dog help you?
Yeah, I don't remember.
How do you feel about it now?
Getting the dog, I don't remember thinking I'm here to help the dog. Those things came up, right? Like training or whatever. Tori was very traumatized. She was very afraid of loud noises, of things moving over her head. She had broken her leg in her last race, and she would have been destroyed with hundreds of other dogs at track in Macau, had they not already been in the process of shutting the track down and bringing in rehab people to help them get off, performance enhancing drugs and their injuries and their trauma and stuff, and then send them around the world. And 50 of them came to San Diego. So specifically with Tori, she did need help. Like, she wouldn't even go upstairs. She was afraid of everything. Everything was new to her. She only knew the track and being in a cage and racing and wrestling other dogs to get food and training all day. She had that athlete in her, but these other dimensions were new to her. And so, like, play, running at the beach, running around playing with other dogs, being loved and cared for, and sleeping on a comfortable bed, it was like I was seeing these parts of her like reawakening, like almost like another chance to be a puppy. And
so you're talking about being a puppy for yourself?
Well, no, this was Tori.
Oh, okay,
yeah,
okay, got it.
There is a mirroring that's happening through this too. It was the COVID shutdown and our community going online that put me into a crisis. It was better than nothing, but not much better. Because you talk about holding back online with people gathering and then having strangers come in, right? It was a different vibe in terms of trust or openness, right? And, we made the best of it, but it was really starving me. So talk about a social media fast. For me, that was like a social contact fast. And I didn't do well. I went into burnout because it wasn't putting the energy back in that I was pouring out. And Tori helped nurture my awareness because of her sensitivity, her vulnerability, her need for support, guidance, help. Recognize that I have those needs too. And so her sensitivity became a teacher for me to recognize I carry around a lot of stress and busyness and COVID and being home when my daughter's doing school online and I'm doing work online and we're right across the hall from each other, sometimes in the same room, spending much more time together, I realized I had been neglecting my family. And I think it was Tori's needs that helped reorient me to my own needs and balance.
Do you feel that, and Darin's a pastor, I didn't mention it, but I will in the description, but do you think that COVID, the pandemic, I frame COVID and the pandemic, I separate them. I mean, together they overlap, but I separate them also. Because the pandemic could have been anything, not even necessarily a disease. But I think, do you think it was a modern day Noah's Ark? If people chose, I guess anything could be that chose.
You mean in terms of like literally with millions of people dying?
No, not from that standpoint. Why God didn't just want to kill a
No,
lot of people.
I don't
What he
believe
wanted
that.
to do is he wanted to cleanse the earth.
Well, that's the story that we wrote to explain it.
Okay. So how do you feel? Let's get into that.
I mean, like the primordial flood story was borrowed from other cultures, right?
Yes.
For that. And so it has what the Jungian take on it would be, it's part of the collective unconscious, or unconsciousness, right? That there's something about our mortality and the messiness of this world that gives us attention, right? We want it to be better than it is, right? And so we tend to project those things on God, right? Well, God's like the extrapolation of goodness, right? To the nth degree. Well, I don't know if I'm touching on the connection you're making between the pandemic and Noah's Ark, but to me the twist that the Noah story takes at the end is that it doesn't end with destruction. It ends with the rebirth of possibility, of hope, of starting over, starting again, starting fresh. And it's immediately messed up, right? Again.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's just, it's a kind of a reminder story of, yeah, we want to start fresh, we want to start over, this time I'm going to do it right, but we're still going to mess it up. So then maybe what we need to learn is not how to get it right, but how to sort of fail upwards is an image some people talk about. Like, how does every opportunity, particularly the things we would never wish on our worst enemy, how is that transformed? What is the possibility in the dark place, the place of unknowing, right? Of confusion, despair, wherever we feel lost. Like, what is the possibility? To me, there's a survival instinct in that. There's something biological within us that is reaching out for something to hang on to. So I don't know how much I want to spend talking about Charlie Kirk, but I think that's what folks in the reactionary end of the cultural spectrum here are grasping for, is they feel chaos, they feel disruption, they feel upset, anxiety, fear, and they're reaching out for something to hold on to. And the lust for power and dominance in a society is probably the most repeated, mistaken attempt.
How so?
Well, look what happens in authoritarian governments. They usually centered in an autocrat, a dictator, and none of them live forever. And so if a society is centered around an individual, what's it going to do when they go, inevitably, sooner or later? In the meantime, this whole society gets hardwired in fear, right? And so what kind of a decision is going to make about its next step of evolution as a society if it's so hardwired in fear that it can't really consider anything else? Because to me, you don't have a society without trust, faith in other human beings, because we can't do it all ourselves. There is no one person who can fix it. That's the idolatry that the Bible warns about, right? The prophets say, you don't need a king.
Oh, I mean, that's going to an extreme with the king, but I was telling somebody the other day, and I've written on this, is I don't believe there are any self-made men or women.
No, that's a delusion of ego, and I've experienced that myself when I was in college. You know, it rewards ego, it rewards competition, success, right? And I had a story I was telling myself because I was working so hard that I earned this, and forgetting about the people who got me through. Friends, family, community, support, opportunities, everything.
And for some of the people that aren't grasping this, because it's a term that's not often used, and sometimes you're not fighting in any way, and you just accept it. Say you own a website. Did you create the website by yourself? If you created the website by yourself, are you the one that's providing all the products that are on there? If you are providing all the products on there, are you doing all the distribution? Are you using any things like the post office or anything to be shipping things out? And that's very superficial and basic. But maybe your parents didn't help you out as much as you. But did they give you life?
And the fact that they sent me out to work starting at age 11 to help the family, some might say, well, that's harsh. Had to grow up too soon or whatever. But they did the best they knew to do for me, and I'm grateful for that. They taught me a lot. They got me out working early, and they also were humble people. They weren't self-promoters. They were both public servants most of their life. So it's a strong ethic of, I think, what was it? Senator or Congresswoman Edelman, I think, said, service of all humanity is the price of entry to being a human being. And I totally embraced that. Like, that's where I've found purpose. And a joy most days. I want to say every day, because it's always there, but it's not always foremost in my awareness.
It's almost like when I'm helping people. So I stopped life coaching, and I was making around $250 an hour doing life coaching. It's not really like that if you count all of the, because you're not really counting. That's when you're in front of a client. So there's, but during that time, I know I bring it, no question about it. Mm-hmm. Maybe sometimes I didn't select the right people that potential is there, but they didn't really want to move into grasping the skills that I could provide to them. But I was getting something out of it. So a lot of times I don't want to mess around with helping people because I know I'm going to get something out of it. And a lot of times I don't feel I'm wasting their time but I just feel that they're just not called to move in the world like I move in the world. And are not willing to get out of the way, or haven't seen examples of how getting out of the way is important enough. So a lot of times I just don't want to take on certain things because it's just like it's a waste of time. And I noticed recently I had a lot of, and it took me about a week and a half to unfold it, which is a long time for me. I mean, when I had the attention. Because a lot of times we're just not aware of stuff. So like, how would we know? Like, how do you know that whether you're operating in truth or not if you have like a big blind spot around some part of that? So I had a client. Sorry, I do Lyft still, and I had a passenger who was irritating me because she was fact checking everything that I was saying, and it wasn't like the big stuff. It was like everything. So and I was speaking and I don't think she was drinking. She was going somewhere that she was going to drink, but I don't think she was drinking. But I would say that I have 10,000 hours dealing with millennials, and I don't believe in necessary experts, but for experts, 10,000 hours is how you define if somebody's an expert. So I would say that somebody having a lot of time with something shows that they can do it, but it comes down to the execution and being able to make things happen and get out of the way and let things happen for me. So I'm talking to her, and it's weird because I got frustrated later on in the conversation that she asked me for my credentials, but I kind of was giving her my credentials. Was saying the $10,000 an hour, but also saying that stuff's not important. And I said dealing with millennials, and she said, she asked me what generation I was, and then she asked me what about Generation Z, and I was like, well, Generation Z, with what went on with COVID, there's a lot of things that they were missing out with, just like the dog and just like us. They can get back to their puppy phase, and I'm framing that for the conversation. I didn't say it to her. She'd be like, what's the puppy phase? But going back to that, I said Generation Z is still being defined. They're still finding their identity. She's like, you don't think we have an identity? I was like, no, I didn't say that. I said your full generation doesn't have an identity yet. Which I like is a beautiful thing. It gives you room to grow.
Yeah, it's a journey.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not as big into the generational studies because it's a snapshot, right?
Yeah, for sure.
We're all unfolding.
100%. And there's I mean, I don't have a lot of, I have some similarities with I have similarities in all the generations, but also sometimes it's good to look macro and sometimes it's good to look micro.
Sure.
Yeah, the 100% on things, but also it's good to adapt and let things flow, and not say, oh, you're a millennial, you're like this.
Box you.
That's not good with any generation, for sure.
It's a cutoff, yeah.
And I want to say something about the silent generation real quick. I used to think that was beautiful that they were silent, and in some ways I would think that millennials and Generation Z are too out there without knowing the context of things, and we're all up there. Sometimes I would say that, but the silent generation, from a lot of shit that they saw and they were silent about it, I don't think that was necessarily good. But I think I like this guru. His name's Sadhguru. I like one of the things that he says. I've seen back and forth on him for sure, but I've seen one of the things that he says is he talks about all of the people on the planet as a generation.
At one time.
Yeah, we're all a generation.
That makes sense. Yeah. Generation, like a generation in the evolution of life on Earth.
Yeah, I feel that's a better way of looking at it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's helpful.
Because then we get caught up and we're making judgments, or somebody says they like Trump or Charlie Kirk, and then all of a sudden we just got a lot, and sometimes people say they like a certain person, and I get tight, but I'm not my authentic self when I do, and I'm not at my best when I do. So even when I'm getting tight, if I'm able to say that, hey, maybe I should sit back and watch this unfold and see it. This. The only thing that I do not have any wiggle room on is pedophiles. I'm not gonna have a conversation.
Well, and interesting how that has been used recently, right? First, it was the Republicans saying the Democrats have the deep state is a bunch of Democrat pedophiles, right? Yeah. And now it comes out. Actually, there's plenty of Republicans caught up in those circles, including the guy in the top office, and then suddenly it gets shut down. Yeah. Right?
I'm
scapegoating.
For me, and I would say I'm a little jaded in this situation. I think, and I'm not clowning on Beyonce. I was having trouble saying her name. I'm not clowning on Beyonce. I'm just using her as an example. I believe there's many people that can sing at Beyonce's level. Not unbelievable amount, but there's many people that can sing at her level, talent-wise, looks-wise, like everything that's packaged in that realm. But I would believe that the influence and the control, they look at we all have flaws. But sometimes these people have like a real neediness to be famous, and they pick somebody that has a propensity for drug problems or they just can see around, because they've been around it so much, they can see around the corner, I'm going to pick this person because they have a big hole on them insecurity-wise that we can manipulate them to influence the masses. And I believe they do that same thing with politicians. They see something within, and I'm somebody that wouldn't do that, but I would have the capability of doing that I would just be able to see somebody's flaws, like, oh, this is a person I can control. But I don't like controlling people because it takes time, and it's not good. It's not good, basically. But also it takes time, because I get mad at them because I don't like yes men around me. But I like people that agree with me sometimes, and not. I don't like. I was talking the other day about somebody that was saying that their friend's a professional skeptic, and I'm like, I don't like anybody that has the title of. I mean, sorry. I tighten up when somebody has that like the skeptic, when they're just like a skeptic.
Or to like buy into a role, or
like a role, because it's like they're just gonna question everything.
Can be irritating.
Like for instance, and I don't know how you feel about this, but it doesn't necessarily matter for the conversation. But a lot of men aren't into astrology, and I believe one of the primary reasons, what took me a while to get to this, is that women are visited by their moon cycle every month. So they could be influenced by the planet.
Yeah, more attuned to natural cycles.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's not something that, I don't believe in that. Yeah, in that situation. So, I believe that's just a reminder there that would just might open you up to that. That's an intuition. I was sharing with two separate females recently that their intuition, because they're concerned that they're a little too sensitive. I was like, your intuition is where your sensitivity. I mean, your sensitivity is how your intuition is so strong. Can your emotions be out of balance? Usually when men are talking about they don't like emotions, what they're talking about is out of balance emotions. And out of balance emotions are when you're holding them in. My mom's in a nursing home currently, and I believe, at the nursing home, it's like 9, for every 10 people, it's 9 women.
Yeah, because they're outliving men.
And I don't think it's just because they're older, and they were more working at that age. And I think there's some transition that a lot of those women were working too, but there is more going on. Oh, you like the smell of my phone, Tori? There's more. There's Tori. But I said for the longest time that tears are holy water. And for somebody that says that, I have tears of compassion in my eye like on a daily basis. But actually, 20 years in my spiritual growth, earlier this year when my mom was in a nursing home and she was really having trouble and she wasn't happy, I cried solid for 2 weeks. And I don't think anybody was even noticing around me that I was just doing. I'm sure they were, but but sometimes people see me in such a certain way that they don't see certain things. I remember one time around when I first met you, my back was jacked up, and it was like if I stood up, I would be at angles the other way, but for the camera purposes, I'd be at an angle like this. And I was walking around all day, and I was like, nobody's noticing. I see these people every day, and nobody's noticing. And then I was walking by this guy Carlos. You might have met him around because I knew CA knew him, but Carlos saw me, and Carlos has trouble with his eyes. So he saw a guy walking that had a messed up back, and then when I got closer, he saw it was me. Everybody else didn't expect that from me, so they didn't see it.
Yeah. What are we missing? What are we paying attention to?
And I think that's when you're saying to the fact of the generations, we get lost when. This is how a black person's supposed to act. This is how a woman's supposed to act. This is the different ones, because because I like to speak more to masculine and feminine energy, and we're all a blend of masculine and feminine energy. The way you move your hand is masculine and feminine energy. More feminine energy is more lateral movements. This is more up and down, more stoic, more SS soldiers. If you look at soldiers from very authoritarian place, all soldiers move tightly, but if you look at from more authoritarian places, they're very, very, very rigid, very, very rigid. But I could say some of the places in the islands might be authoritarian, but they move, but it's part of the culture. They move like in a more beautiful sort of way, like in Africa.
Balance,
yeah,
right?
yeah, for
so
sure.
If one thing is overexpressed in society, you got to find other ways to express the flip side.
100%.
Yeah.
Like even I'm always into balancing energy. If I'm in my car and then somebody rolls up the right window, I'll automatically, without thinking, roll up the left window. Because I just want to balance the energy.
Sure. Just like how kind of we mirror body language, or when we're tuning in, when we're leaning into the conversation or whatever, right?
For sure, it's how you build rapport.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah.
So anything else about? I don't know if I finished the situation with that young lady, but what it came to me, because I think I went on a tangent. The one that was the young lady that was irritating me, what it came down to, and it unfolded in a week and a half, is my emotional. What happened was I was not being vulnerable enough in business because I was in personal, because I was too affected by the few bad situations that I had. So for instance, I was focused on even little things that went wrong. I was focusing too much on that instead of saying, like when I met you, I had a lot of stuff going on. They didn't want me to be on the Starbucks at San Diego State, even though I was talking students out of suicide, and because a lot of the students love me, but I wasn't paying attention to it. I wasn't paying attention to the people, that the police showing up trying to intimidate me. I was paying attention to that, which was a blessing in disguise. I would never thank them for it, but I would thank them from afar, because it was a blessing for disguise, because I alchemized that into doing more good. So the situation with the young lady, she was irritating me because I wasn't hating my current circumstances, but I wasn't fully happy with my current circumstances. And then what that put me in a place to heal myself, I needed to get rid of that blind spot, because I'm good at healing myself and letting go of energy. I had to step into, being more vulnerable. People are doing that. I was driving Lyft last night. Students freaking love me, and I'm focused on the bad conversation. And you know what? And you don't know this young lady. She was not mean to me in any. She just irritated me because I felt she was so stuck in her consciousness or an old consciousness, and she was pointing it at me. But she's trying to find a way. She's trying to break herself out of that. And most of the time I'm good at spotting that and then kind of like moving in a way and putting myself out there. But I was so irritated that somebody that's a Generation Z, that's 21, 22, is looking at the world how it used to be. And it was very frustrating for me. That conversation frustrates me a lot, and that'll probably never go away. But the fact of wasting time of sitting in that energy for a week and a half, which turned out to be a blessing, and then stepping up, being more vulnerable of how much I appreciate the students and telling them how much I appreciate, even though I'm good in that space. But I stopped up to pick up these young ladies and to rush my car, and a lot of times I don't remember them. I don't know who they are, which part of me is like I feel bad, but also I give a lot of rides.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
I give a lot of rides, and a lot of times I don't know I'm going to see them again, so I'm definitely not trying to remember their name.
Right.
And from that standpoint, but I do know for 100% that meeting that we had before was fully authentic. And sometimes it's just like, and I know a lot of it's my car, but I was the one that set up my car. But it's a lot of things that I learned over time, and a lot of letting go and appreciation that it just happens with little effort. But a lot of times when you're focused on the bad, or you're focused on how the past was, like I was focused on her being back generations, I was focused on around when I met you, how my life was and how people responded to me. When I look back at it, I was probably, because I have people come from me from that time. They were like, oh, I had a conversation with you 15 years ago. It was game changing for me. I had a guy that he said Eureka, that's by your facility. He had a meeting with me, having a beer at the place. He just had a chance meeting with me, and he works at Dwight and Touche, and he said a conversation changed my life. And I'm like, he said we used to. I saw him in Eureka. He saw me in Eureka all the time. I went there 2-3 times. But just one conversation like that, and there's somebody that works at Dwight and Touche. I know like people that are online that work for the federal government. When I was like early on, I met the first employee of eBay who's worth $100 million, and he's following me around at a funeral because he was interested in what I was saying. He has access that I don't have access to, and he's amazed by the way I was talking and everything. When I'm being harassed at Starbucks that they don't want me around and I'm not being appreciated. And he wanted me to come up and speak to the people at eBay, and I didn't want to leave the college students. That was a sacrifice that I made. He unfriended me on Facebook because I didn't want to change the stuff that I was posting on Facebook. But I didn't care.
Yeah.
But that's who I am. But I don't brag. Like even me saying this right now, I don't do that often. But it's like, why do I put myself through a lot of the stuff that I put myself through? And I'm definitely getting better, and trust me, I enjoy my life, and I feel like at 55, I feel like my life's just getting started. So I'm definitely not complaining, but it's like, why do we put ourselves through it? And I think, and it's why I'll never say that I'm enlightened. I believe I'm enlightened-ish, but I'll never say I'm enlightened because a lot of times I have to have bad show up in order to make the necessary changes. My version of bad, but we don't necessarily have to have somebody to die for us to make the changes. We can have a butterfly fly by us and make massive changes.
Like the grain of sand that starts the landslide, or
for sure. And for me, that the grain of sand can be just a little conversation with somebody like that.
Yeah.
And so what I had to do is I had to take that little thing and make it bigger so I could make the necessary changes.
Yeah, there's opportunity in everything. So even being annoyed by this person and their critical, argumentative pattern triggered something in yourself, your own vulnerability, your growing edge, or whatever you need to wrestle with. And so that's a gift, right? It doesn't feel like a gift at the time.
Oh yeah, for sure. Sometimes it does. Sometimes I know it's a gift. Yeah, I'm not happy about this.
Yeah.
Actually, one of my friends said we had a conversation. She's the one that told me about the space, but she was the one that, in a conversation that we had, that was a 2-hour conversation, which is rare for me. On phone, in person, it's more. But I was saying that I don't have a fear of rejection because there's in so many ways I don't have a fear of rejection. But that, and even the next day I said, I don't have a fear of no. I was thinking that as fear of rejection. I have a fear that things won't work out longer term. So why waste the effort?
Yeah. Which would cut off a lot of those opportunities, ironically, right?
Yeah, for sure.
You never know.
Oh yeah, for sure. But also, as I was sharing with Krishna, she said there's a wisdom to that, because a lot of times I'm picking up on stuff early on and trusting that and staying away from certain people. But also I had COVID toughened me up. for the fact of a lot of times when something went bad, I would just like walk away with from it totally. But there's a couple experiences that I had that I was able to make it that like people shit on me in a certain situation, and I was able to turn those bad things into massive wins. Because what is BS? We all do a lot of bullshit. What is bullshit? It's bullshit. What is bullshit? It's fertilizer. And I believe, and you can address this or not address it, that Jesus was an alchemist.
Yeah. Well, right, redirecting the energy. Not just flat out blocking the energy. Recognizing, I think there's a lot of Taoist influence in Jesus' teaching. There's a lot of natural teaching images, a lot of parallels there.
Are you saying during when he was 13 to
I don't know.
to 30?
I don't know, but I do know that that's the crossroads of many cultures.
Yeah.
It has been for thousands of years. And through trade or whatever, interaction, there's clearly some influences like on Greek philosophy from Buddhism. A lot of people don't know about that because we trap everything into categories. We don't know. I mean, I'm not just wanting to speculate on that, but more about, yes, that we tend to we get caught up in static views of things, but the reality is everything's flowing, nothing's static. So what if our images that are fixed need to be shaken up, loosened up, maybe even have to crumble in order for us to be more fully participating in what is actually unfolding?
One of the blessings from COVID is not from the pandemic, but during the COVID. But one of the blessings for me is I knew, because I went through my own personal pandemic, which I framed during COVID, that's what I was going through around when I met you for 7 to 10 years. I was going through my own personal pandemic. And that's why I stepped further out of the closet as my authentic self and made myself more vulnerable to help other humans. And that's why I had a lot of those bad situations that happened that I turned into good situations. And I like, for instance, my cannabis party, I do it once a month. And I wouldn't have done anything once a month, structured something that's in my schedule once a month. It was, when I met you, it was like, yeah, after this conversation, I have nothing scheduled in my life for the rest of my life.
Wow, that's an opportunity.
Yeah. So, but I believe I've more things have come together because of that structure.
Oh,
so you can have more, because if anything, people see me more like an avatar of some of these people that I feel that I'm in competition with, that I feel that just don't, like, that's one of the things when she said, when I told her that I wrote 16 books in 5 years, and she's like, what credentials do you have for that? And I was like, you're speaking another language. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
I go, there's a lot of people that have credentials that don't give a fuck about you and I, and don't give a fuck about people. So I'm like, I just, and I'm not against credentials. I have a degree and everything, but I'm all about, can you do stuff?
Well,
do you have heart? Do you have a good person?
Yeah. Are you trustworthy?
Yeah.
Like to see Dr. Oz standing next to the president, telling people not to use Tylenol. He's giving like medical advice because somebody told him, or he saw it on social media. And here's the actual medical doctor. I don't know if he's still licensed, but he's de facto, just by his presence there and his credentials, endorsing something that is really medical malpractice.
I don't know much about Dr. Oz, but and I may be jaded in this area, kind of like about what I was talking about it. But a lot of these people that are good doctors, are okay doctors, that want to have fame,
Yeah.
Like,
It's seductive.
yeah,
Yeah.
they get lost a lot. We all get lost to a certain extent,
Sure.
and that's how you find your new self too. So it's not, I'm not alone in being lost, even though, even of mentioning that young lady of how she was lost, Generation Z being lost, that gives them a opportunity to step into something bigger, brighter and better. And I think that's what that hurt and that wound is.
Yeah.
Because if you don't care, then you won't have any issue with that wound. It might just be pain, but it's an opportunity.
Well, and I think it's a challenging time for even people to trust that the caring is genuine and doesn't have an ulterior motive, that it's not a manipulation. Because we see so much of that cynical behavior repeated and amplified to us.
Yeah.
Right? It's the worst that gets emphasized, that gets focused on, when ordinary human beings, by and large, are pretty decent. Especially if we don't put them into circumstances where they're forced to act like animals just to survive.
Yeah, the survival mechanism is very real, and I think it holds us
And we need
back.
it, right?
Oh yeah, so we need it, yeah, for sure.
It's just that we're overusing it.
This is where the way that I've heard it that really rings true to me is, say that, and I'm not I don't know my animals totally, but just say that a lion's chasing a wildebeest, and the wildebeest is very relaxed, and then the lion chases it, and it's like totally stressed, gets over there, it outruns the lion, and then it's just totally relaxed eating grass over there.
Isn't that amazing?
Minutes later, we're carrying. I mean, I remember one of my mentors, Jerome Gross, saying to me at one of my events, but he's saying to the group, if you ever worry about something for 17 seconds, it infuses somewhere on your nervous system. And then immediately I was saying to myself, 17 seconds? How about 17 years?
That's a lot to unlearn or to rewire.
Yeah. You know, I mean, a lot of times, you can just do the energy work for it. You don't necessarily have to learn it. You have to. It's good to get it in your mind too, because you pattern recognition.
But it's working before our thinking kicks in. Is kind of the point, right?
For sure.
Prior to thinking, that instinctive reaction.
Yeah. It's as you told me about this. I had an understanding of it, but I loved how you told me about the three centers: your heart, your brain, and gut. And then what I added to is your cells, channeling into that side of things. So I wanted to wrap out some points. Do you want to share anything as far as you want to share anything?
I just appreciate opportunities to have conversation with you. It's a refreshment to step away from my work that demands too much screen time, too much computer time. So ironically, recording this doesn't feel like screen time to me, partly because you're holding the camera. I'm not looking at it that much. But it's nice to be out here in green space with expansive view. So you talk about what happens with the wildebeest or whatever and how to recover. It's like being in a place like this where you can see that you're safe. You can see that there's no predators around, right? And so even at a biological level, it's relaxing. So thanks for picking this place.
It's interesting. This place, it's called the Witch's Tower. It's in San Diego, in Presidio Park. But there is a lot of, like, the Spanish. There was a territory for the Spanish, so a lot of war went on in this area. And there's also a pentagram, I think, at the top of that. So there's a lot of, like, the witch side of that stuff. A lot of, looks like there's some animal sacrifices potentially on there. So there's a lot of energy in there, but it's still found a place to have peace.
Yeah, it's interesting because we can see this restored wall margin, so we're within the footprint of the original fort that, in a way, could be seen as the beginning of the genocide that happened in this place. What is that? 500 years ago? 1520, something like that. But then the Spaniards didn't settle this till later. And there's not far from here, burial of indigenous people that was discovered later. So yeah, we're on a place that's marked by trauma, but a lot of the world, if not all of the world, is marked, scarred. And for me, conversations like this, just open to possibilities, is part of that healing. Talk about this generation. What is the healing work before us?
I like that you already adopted that. All the 4 or 5 generations that are on the planet as one generation. Did you just do that when you just said this generation?
Well, I'm recalling that you.
No. I'm saying I like that you adopted that.
Yeah, no, I think it fits. And I guess one thing I would share is a quote from Howard Thurman. He said, "Don't ask what the world needs you to do. Find what makes you come alive and do that. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive."
That's beautiful.
It's Howard Thurman.
Howard Thurman.
Yeah.
And we can end with that. And if you notice that the screen it's hard to see right now because a lot of light just came in. So the more that we sit with our emotions and get out in beautiful places and do stuff, this is my version of self-care. Out with the dog, his dog, not my dog. And then I got flat feet on the ground, and that's when the light comes into the darkness. Peace.
Thanks.
Thank you.